I'm going to start off with my list of topics. Once again, based on your questions that we received ahead of time and also with some updates. So there was a question that came in about college admissions. This is, tis the season. Some of you may not realize that school counseling is my background. I was a school counselor for a number of years before I came to AMSA. And I actually came to AMSA as a school counselor, so topic near and dear to my heart, which is why I grabbed that topic off the list. So the question was around 11th grade students, and would the college admissions counselors be doing college visits with our students? And it's typically 11th and 12th graders. And the answer to that is yes. And the students should go into their Naviance account and log in, and they can register for those visits. They need to be registered so that they'll get their links. And we have over 100 colleges who are going to be offering remote visits with our students this year. They will all be held on Mondays, so that they're not interrupting their regular classes. There may be some that are held during academic periods, some of that time in the middle in the schedule, which Brianna will review with you. But for the most part, they'll be held after school, and they'll be held on Mondays. We have, as I mentioned, over 100 colleges who have reached out to us. Typically, we'll have 60 or 70 colleges that will actually come on campus. But none of the colleges are doing those kinds of visits this year. So this is the next best thing that we can get. And they do a great job answering the kids' questions. So that's open to 11th and 12th graders. Also, I suggest that your 11th and 12th graders, and even your 9th and 10th graders, can go onto their Naviance accounts and can start looking at some of the surveys there. There's a counselor survey, filling in the blanks with different things. Sorry, my dog jumped. My husband is at the door. So they could start working on that information, updating their resume and things like that. Will be a big help to them in the future. And senior seminar classes will still be held for our seniors. So, and that's part of their regular schedule to help with the college admissions process. So also want to let you know that we're looking at the PSAT has been a hot topic for schools all over the country. And there's a lot of different options that College Board has made possible for us this year. And one of them is to put the date off a little bit for our 11th graders, and we're looking at October 29th. So I'm not going to go into a lot of that because I imagine that there'll be a lot of details coming out from Kate Driver and the counselors about how that's going to work and what that's going to look like. And then there's even some January dates this year. And they're giving us some ranges and things. So know that we're looking at holding a PSAT for our 11th graders and possibly for the 10th graders, depending upon how things play out in January. And that is the school counseling information. School pictures. We've had a lot of questions around school pictures. We reached out to our photographer this morning, and they're not obviously doing photos right now for schools who are on remote learning. But once we go back on a hybrid model, or we go back fully in person, they're going to be very flexible with us to schedule dates. So, I'm certainly hopeful that just going to presenting to the Okay, so I'm sorry, I can't, too many things going on at once here at my house. So that we will schedule that, and they're being very flexible with us on dates. Lots of questions around yearbooks. I'm sure and hope you are aware and have seen the emails around the book pickups that are happening this Thursday. So we really appreciate everyone's participation in the book drop-offs. If you haven't dropped off books yet, we still have about 600 of them that are out in the community. If you haven't dropped them off, please drop them off when you come in also to do your pickups on Thursday. And you should have received the email by now. If not, I know we've sent out a lot, so just take a look through your email. And what we'll have you do is come around the building, the upper school building, and then the lower school building. And you will just come by, give the person who's there your child's name, and the books will already be pre-packaged in a bag for you. The yearbooks will be in that bag. So if your child has purchased a yearbook, it will be included with the books that you pick up when you come by the school on Thursday. And Mike, did you just put the information in the chat box about the time for pickup, for book pickup?
I'm about to do that, yep.
Okay, fantastic. So Mike will put that in there for you, again, as a refresher. So the yearbooks will be part of that. And once again, if you have any books at home that are tucked under someone's bed or they're someplace else, please drop those off when you come to pick up your next set of books. Also, just a quick shout out to Quest Diagnostics, who donated 1,000 bags to us. So you're going to have, your books are going to come in a nice sturdy bag. And Mark Vital worked with Quest to get that donation. And that will be a nice bag for you all to take home your books. So let's see. There was a question about, will 8th graders get a tour of the upper school when we return to school? And the answer to that is yes. We'll make sure that they get a tour, and also that the 9th graders will get the appropriate 9th grade orientation as well once we return to school. Lots of questions in the past about study halls. The high school students have study hall, those who don't have a full schedule. So some have it, some don't. Students will be expected to attend their study halls. There'll be a Zoom link along with those, and there'll be a Google Classroom as well. They'll need to go to study hall, leave their camera on, and get some work done. For seniors, part of the senior privileges in the past has been that they don't have to attend study hall if it's first thing in the morning or last period in the afternoon. While we're on remote learning, they will not be required as a senior privilege to attend study hall. They can if they want, but they don't have to. When we come back to in-school learning again, the old rule will be in place. They will need to come during the day except late in the morning, or they can leave in the afternoon with parent permission. There's a form that you need to fill out. So right now, study halls are in place. Cameras need to be on. Teachers will take attendance, except for seniors, as a privilege. Also for senior privileges, typically the seniors get together, the student government gets together, and they put a proposal together of the senior privileges that they would like to propose to Mike and I each year. A little different this year, so we're just going to put out the privilege of the study hall. But they will be working with Brianna to come up with some other senior privileges that might make this time feel a little bit more special for them. And so that is more information to come as she works that out with the students. Let's see. Also, just want to remind parents that the back to school plan is still posted on the website. There's many answers to your questions that are in that plan. I also want to bring your attention, and Brianna's going to run through it with you shortly, but Mike Finkel's been working on just with a group of people, a beautiful back to school pages on our website. That's a collection of every bit of information you could possibly want to answer your questions, along with parent videos on how to do Google Classroom, how to accept your guardian, Zoom, and all of that. So Brianna's going to show you very soon what that looks like on the website. And there's also the blue and orange calendars so that you can keep track of that as well. Let's see, and the last item, by the end of the day on Friday, we will be sending out our back to school video that Mike and Brianna and I will be putting together with Mike Finkel. We'll be doing it remotely. And we'll also start publishing our weekly Friday newsletters once again. But in that back to school video, it will have, you will walk the kids through the schedule and what a remote learning class might look like, and offer any kind of other information that they might feel that might be helpful to them and reduce any kind of anxiety as they go into the week ahead. We also have a student remote learning expectation one-page sheet that's going to also go out on Friday to our students and to our families. And that's going to set some expectations around, the kids being at home and setting up a space for them, and, that we want them in, street clothes and things like that. So you'll be receiving that very soon as well. Uniforms are not required, but certainly they can wear them if they would like. And so that is the information that I have for you. And now I'll pass the time over to Mike and Brianna.
Okay, thank you, Ellen. Welcome everyone to our evening family forum. It's good to see everybody here on a Tuesday night. We beat our attendance record earlier, or our attendance earlier this afternoon. We have about 25 more people. So thank you for taking the time to listen to us speak once again about this upcoming year, which will be, as we all know, quite a challenge. But we're trying to get everything sorted out and answer all the questions that we possibly can so that people feel as comfortable and confident as they possibly can entering into the school year. So as Ellen mentioned, we have many items we're still looking to put in place, videos and other documents and notices and alerts and emails. Just please try and keep up. I know it's a lot, but you can always reach out to us if you're confused or have any questions. We're here for you. So just stay in touch with us if you need anything throughout this whole process. So I had just a couple of topics, just three actually. I'll start with the questions that came in around Zoom. Well, first off, Zoom account information. Mr. Finkel, has it gone out officially since our afternoon meeting for the students?
Yes, Ms. Petrosky, I believe, sent it out to students, and parents should have received an email this morning
Okay.
with explanation. So if parents did not receive an email about Zoom this morning, please send me a note in the chat, and I'll forward it to you after this meeting.
Perfect. Thanks, Mr. Finkel. So the Zoom account information was sent out by our IT director, Erica Piotrowski. In the body of that email, there are specific instructions that she put together explaining to the students in writing, how they'll enter, how they'll see the class invite on their calendar, their school provided email calendar. So their Gmail account that they have through AMSA, that's the key through this whole process. And then I'm going to get into our security because with Zoom, another question popped up about that. But everything ties around the AMSA provided email account that all the students have access to. So in the email with the Zoom account and login information, there are specific instructions in there. I suggest that everybody take a look at that, all parents, all students, test it out, make sure your account is active and working so that we're prepared for the first week of school when school starts up. Along with that, we are looking to put together, as Ellen mentioned, one of the many tutorial videos, but we're looking to put one together for Zoom just so that people can see what it looks like to go onto your calendar, your Gmail calendar, click on your class, access the link, and enter into a Zoom classroom. So we're looking to put in some basic instructional video for the students and the parents. Make this as easy as we possibly can. We're really trying. So please stay tuned for that. Now, some questions came up regarding security. And just so everybody knows, as I mentioned, the AMSA account is crucial here. That's how students will get into their Zoom classes throughout the remote learning phase. What that means is on our end, as the meeting hosts, all of our teachers who host a class, when we just went through a training last week with our IT director on this, there are particular features in the settings menu from the host side where we can select different criteria for the meeting. And one of those, so that's a bunch of different, questions they sort of ask you. How do you want your meeting to run is pretty much what they're asking you overall. How do you want this to look? And one of the key areas that we are checking off and making sure that all teachers check off is that the only Zoom accounts that can access these Zoom meetings are AMSA school provided accounts. This will avoid any outsiders coming into a meeting, attempting to disrupt or attempting just to sneak into a class for whatever reason. We will have that locked down so that it's just the AMSA student accounts that can get into these classes, just so everyone knows that. The next topic, this is sort of switching gears a little bit. My next two topics are, it's a little scattered just because the questions came in a certain way. The next topic has to do with phys ed classes. Several questions have popped up about phys ed, and I guess the main question that I've seen is phys ed going to run through Zoom, or is my child to attend phys ed class when it's on their schedule? The answer to that is yes. Phys ed, when it shows up on your child's schedule every other day, they are to attend that class. It will be through Zoom. The phys ed teachers, we have 4 phys ed teachers. Actually, 5 this year. We have one part-time, someone who's working part-time for us. So they are going to set the expectations, communicate with the students on, during the first week of school. They will have discussions on how class will look during the remote phase. So your child should go. They'll receive Zoom links on their Google Classroom page, just like they would for any other instructional class. The phys ed classes will be 70 minutes long, just like the other blocks are scheduled for. But the key thing to keep in mind is that these phys ed classes, they will involve physical movement. There'll be a physical aspect to it, but it will not last for the entire 70-minute period. There will be, a segment where there will be some physical movement, but due to the circumstances that we're in right now, due to the remote world that we are in, our phys ed teachers are well prepared to incorporate more health-related discussions, health-related topics, and have conversations and conduct, instruction in a different manner than I think the students would be used to under normal circumstances in phys ed class. The reason for that is we don't want people working out for 70 minutes straight, in front of a screen, so that's sort of the reasoning behind that. They're going to, strategically divide their class up so that students are getting a nice, well-rounded phys ed and health experience in these classes during this time. So please do keep that in mind. Main message there is that students will attend that class through the Zoom link that they will receive just like any other class, any of their other classes through Google Classroom. And last on my list is there was a question about, I think it came from a senior or maybe a parent of a senior, for the posting of grades. Now, our communication protocol, which we created about 2 or 3 years ago now, put in writing. It's a school-wide policy and expectation, an accountability tool for our staff and for the whole community in general about how we are to communicate with each other. And one of the key pieces of that document outlines the fact that our teachers, at a minimum, will post grades accurately, get up to date with their grade books and post them on Plus portals every 2 weeks. The question that came in was asking if we could make that 1 week rather than a 2-week window. Right now, we're sticking to our communication protocol as it has been intact for the last several years. We are keeping the 2-week minimum window. I want everyone to keep in mind, though, that I would say the vast majority of our teachers update their Plus portals regularly, and do not always wait until the last moment to update their grades. In our earlier session, there was some concern over, I think, just the amount of time that could, occur between students receiving feedback from their teacher on a particular, assessment or project or assignment. And, if there are any students out there listening right now, or parents, you can relay this message to your children. Students are more than welcome. There's nothing preventing them from asking their teachers about their performance before they're actually posted to Plus portals officially. Some of our teachers have over 200 students that they are responsible for, that are on their caseload during the year. Most have, over 100. They're in the hundreds. And, sometimes it takes time to completely get all that information updated accurately on Plus portals. I do think our teachers do an unbelievable job getting it done within a few days, updating quizzes and tests and things like that. Sometimes there are delays based on the length of a project, the length of an assignment, etc. But in the meantime, I mean, students are more than welcome just to ask a quick question to their teacher. Hey, how did I do on that assessment? Or how did that assignment look to you? Teachers will be more than willing, if they've looked at the material. Like I said, though it may not be posted on Plus portals, teacher, in the majority of cases should be able to give some feedback right then and there. But to answer that question, we are sticking to the 2-week expectation, the 2-week time frame for teachers to accurately reflect their students' grades on Plus Portal. And our plan this year during the remote phase will be to utilize these Monday flex days as designate Mondays as the day where teachers will spend their time tying up any loose ends, wrapping up their grading, and posting by the end of the day or end of the night on Monday, so that Tuesday of every other week, families and students will be able to see an accurate report of their performance. So please do keep that in mind. That is our plan moving forward in this remote phase. I believe that's all I had, Miss Murphy. So you are up, and I know Miss Murphy's going to speak to everyone, and she's actually going to share her screen and go through some of the scheduling. We received quite a few questions on, how's my child? What does the schedule look like? How do I access certain areas like Plus Portals, Google Classroom, all of that. So she has some pretty neat things to show you that we've been working on over the last couple of weeks. So take it away, Miss Murphy.
All right, thanks, Mr. Naraki. So before I share my screen, I'm going to answer a couple other random questions that came in that aren't directly related to the schedule. We had one question about 6th grade world language requirements. So just so everyone knows, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders take Latin as their world language. This is part of our charter, part of our key parts of our curriculum that kind of set us apart from other middle schools. When students reach 9th grade, they can either choose to continue with their Latin studies, or they can then begin to take Spanish or French classes. If students are in ELL or reading classes, they are opted out of the Latin because they receive those services during that Latin period. But then if they reach a point where they don't need those services anymore, then they can begin to take Latin at that point in either 7th or 8th grade, or even 9th grade if it takes until that point. There was another question regarding supply lists. Supply lists were updated, and those updates were published a couple weeks ago. So I'll show you on the website where you can find those if you're checking those. But the 6th and 7th grade and 8th grade teams worked together to see if any revisions needed to be made for the supply list. And I know that the attitude was it's probably better to have you have things that you would need now rather than scrambling when it comes time for us to go back to a hybrid model if we reach that point during the year, so that it's good to be prepared. And even though students are going to be spending the bulk of their class time on the computer, teachers may still think it's best for them to have notebooks and pencils and pens and that kind of thing. And I would agree with that too. I think it's good to handwrite things during class. I know I do that during meetings all the time. Just to minimize like window switching and all that. There was another question that came in about orientation. So 6th graders will have a much shorter orientation than usual on Monday mornings. This is largely because a lot of it is like in-person icebreakers that we usually do, an in-person tour of the school. So the schedule that is currently out there includes a virtual tour and some time for students to meet with their directed study teachers and their classmates in directed study. So they will have time to start to meet their classmates and start to bond with them there. But it's a little difficult to facilitate our traditional kind of moving around the room, icebreaker type games that we usually have. There's no need for lunch, all those things. That's why the schedule is a little shorter than usual. And then new students in grade 7, 8, and 9 will have an abbreviated orientation as well that will begin later that day. So that will be sent out as well. So the last piece of what I'll talk about today regards our schedule. So we've said this a few different times. So if this is repetitive at all, I apologize. We want to make sure everyone has the same kind of foundational background. So when we created a schedule for this coming school year, the goal was to have a schedule that would easily help us move between being in person in a hybrid model and being remote, and that a schedule that we wouldn't have to completely change it up to adapt to both models of instruction. So we opted for a block schedule because of that. The idea with the block schedule is that it minimizes the number of periods or transition periods that students would have during the day, and therefore when we're in person, it would cut down on the number of times they're in the hallways and interacting with people they're not in classes with. That could lead to transmitting any kind of virus. The thought with remote and keeping that block schedule, again, is it's easy to switch if we reach a point in the year where, maybe we're in person for a month or two, and then maybe we need to go remote again, or again, whatever the case may be. But the other plus with the block schedule and remote learning is that it does cut down on the number of times that students have to switch between what they're doing during the day, logging out of one Zoom into another. And so I think the schedule that was created will really help with the remote setting as well. Again, our remote learning plan and our back to school plan was created with the input of over 65 of our staff members. This is something that a lot of people cared very passionately about, and we, gathered all of their input, thinking about all different grade levels and curriculum and all of that, to make sure that we had a schedule that wouldn't really lose any instructional benefits, and and would facilitate learning as best as we can do in this remote world and adapting to that change. So the day begins. I'll actually start to project my screen right now. Let me find it. Hold on a second to make sure I'm on the right tab. So the week will begin rather on Monday, naturally. Monday's a little different than the rest of the week. I'm just going to scroll up here. So we have blue and orange week, which we'll get into in a moment. But every Monday from 9:05 to 9:35, students will sign in to a Zoom link that they'll have with an established cohort and one teacher. This cohort will be between 10 and 13 students. It depends on the grade level, because we want to keep them even across each individual grade. And they'll have, again, the same teacher who most likely teaches within that grade. A lot of our teachers teach multiple grades, so that your child might not have their cohort teacher, but it is someone who'd be familiar to them or to their friends. And the goal of this time is to A, take attendance for the day, B, to have some kind of connection between students that's in a less structured setting of an academic class, and in a much smaller setting too, and to take some time for our staff to check in with students in, again, this non-academic content-focused space, so that staff members can really try to get a sense of how students are doing that are in their cohort. If any concerns come up, the teacher would reach out to the student's counselor, to facilitate any further check-ins that might be necessary, to just make sure that, again, students are doing well in adapting to this remote model that is still kind of new, even though we all did it in the spring. We have a very different schedule than we did then, and it's very different than we normally have the start to school be when we go back to school in September normally. The rest of the day is dedicated to academic time. So throughout the day, there will be 45-minute blocks, and we'll send this all out, that each department will have office hours during. So if students need extra help, they're encouraged to attend office hours. But teachers will be assigning work during the week with the idea that students have, between 9:35 and 2:45 on Mondays to complete work. It's not just, your after school, after 3 p.m. time for homework. It also includes those several hours on Monday to be doing that. So I think some teachers, I will still have a class this year. I know what I'm kind of thinking is I'll encourage my students to do some work on Mondays that will help introduce them to the topics that they'll be doing for the week. And I think a lot of other teachers are thinking that as well. Some independent reading time, hopefully like more non-screen time on that day. But again, Monday is for academics. So this could be independent work. It could be group work. If there's group projects that teachers assign. Again, there's office hours that are available. If students need to meet with counselors, Monday would be a great day to do that because, again, they wouldn't be missing class time for that. They also have some times in the rest of the schedule that would be ideal for meeting with counselors as well. We're hoping as a staff to have as many IEP and 504 and other parent meetings on Mondays too, because we know our staff will be available because they don't have scheduled classes that they'd be teaching at that time. So we're hoping to get a lot of the things that often cause disruptions during a normal school week, hoping to relegate those to Mondays to, again, cut down on those disruptions. Administration will be doing monthly class meetings on Mondays too. Attendance will be required for those. Normally, we really just do one class meeting at the beginning of the year, and then we'll have our big school-wide community meetings throughout the year and the occasional speaker here and there. But meeting with the classes on Mondays will also help us stay more connected to the school and help the classes feel more connected too, because that'll be a time for them to come together during that time. So the rest of the week follows a schedule, as you'll see outlined here. So the times are very consistent. We switch between blue and orange week. So from 7:55 to 9:05, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, students are in one class. So on Tuesday, they'll be at their A1. These letters should hopefully be familiar to students, so having an A1 versus an A2 class. Again, this is on Plus Portal, so that time will be reflected in terms of what class, if they're still confused on how to figure that out on their schedule. So they'll meet for 70 minutes of instruction during that time. And then at the conclusion of the 70 minutes, they stay logged into that A1 class. They can turn their cameras off. The teacher can turn their camera off as well. And students will then enter into this academic workshop time. This is not a break. This is time to dedicate to working on schoolwork. Ideally, this work will relate to what they have just learned in class. Again, speaking from my own plans, and I know other teachers' plans too, that 70 minutes of instruction would be ideal for lecturing, sharing notes, having students participate in breakout rooms, having some discussion. And then that 30 minutes is a great time to complete independent work, practice the skills that have just been taught, maybe do some independent reading, that kind of thing, when normally that work might be saved for the middle of a class to kind of break that up during the day. So at the conclusion of 30 minutes, again, they're staying logged into that same class from 7:55 until 9:35, but the remaining or the end 30 minutes are for academic workshop. So from 9:35 to 9:50 every day, they have a break. There's another 15-minute break, as you'll see, in the afternoon from 1:20 to 1:35, and we really want students to take a break, get up, walk away from their computer, go outside, go for a quick walk, play with your dog for a little bit, whatever it might be. This is a break. It should be used as a break. I know I'm definitely going to be using that time as a break. I think a lot of our teachers will too. And then after the break, they'll have one 70-minute block. Then they'll go off for a 40-minute lunch. Again, we have a longer lunch to help, again, everyone take an actual break, and we really want people to do that. And then they'll come back from lunch for a 70-minute class, followed by another academic workshop. And again, they'll stay logged into that first 70-minute class. So on Tuesdays, that would be C1. Then another break, and then their final 70-minute class at the end of the day. So again, all the times are consistent. Lunch is at the same time every day. You'll notice that lunch is at the halfway point between the day as well. Just this makes the most sense since the school day starts at 8, rather than have lunch be really early or really late. Having it the halfway point, seems to make sense, even though it's a little earlier than I know a lot of adult lunch breaks would be. And they'll then, on Orange Week, flip the order of these periods. So you'll see, I'll just scroll down, you'll see here that Tuesday we'll start with D1 on an Orange Week, where on Blue Week, that class was 4th period, or at the end of the day. So this flipping has 2 purposes. The first is it's really good to mix up the times that students and teachers meet together. I can definitely tell you stories of classes that were like really on their game first period, but then if I had them last period, it was a mess. and vice versa, and other teachers would share my sentiments with that as well. And then the other purpose with this block schedule is that flipping the order allows every class to have an academic workshop once every 2 weeks or twice every 2 weeks if it's a 1-credit course that meets during both like D1 and D2, for example. So again, everyone benefits from this time. This isn't something that only benefits certain classes. And again, the way that teachers structure that will likely be that they'll assign work to do independently that helps to reinforce whatever's been taught during that 70 minutes of instruction. So that's the schedule. So I'm going to go back to I'm just going to pull up my other tab now, and we can go over some resources on the website that I think will be helpful for all of you. Click share again. All right. So now we're on our homepage. So if you have any questions about summer work, that's one of the tabs that's scrolling here. Summer work and supply lists are here if you click. Again, we only do supply lists for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Actually, having a supply list for 8th grade is new this year, so make sure you check that out if you have older students and didn't have that before. And then the first thing that was, when you first get onto the website, that you'll see is this banner for our back to school guide. So if you click here, it's going to bring you to all these resources that will be helpful for anything related to our plan for the fall with remote learning. So we have a little intro over here. I want to point out this bolded email address is where you should go, or where you should email if you have any questions related to the remote learning experience as a whole. This email is just going to collect everything so that these questions will be directed to the right people. Just within our admin team of Mike, Ellen, and I, oftentimes one of us will get an email and the other won't, and one person is better equipped to answer it than someone else. So having this email address will just help us all collect and respond more effectively. This will be managed by Mark Vidal, who's our community outreach person. We talked about him earlier. Still on this call. Looks like he has a great backdrop right now for our meeting. So he'll be, first managing that, and again, directing to make sure that everyone is, good to go and gets the information that they need. On the right side, you'll see all sorts of resources. So our schedule, our platforms, technology support, anything that you could need to help start off the school year and need to reference throughout the year is listed right there. And then the final tab here is your questions answered are frequently asked questions that have been submitted to us in different family forums or that we were getting emails about. So we decided to compile everything right there of, again, common themes that came up that people seem to need clarification on. So that's a really great place to start if you feel like you're overwhelmed with all this information, because it is very different. So the last thing I want to show you on our website is a new resource that we think will be really helpful for parents and guardians to use to support their students. So if you go to the Contact Us menu or tab over here and then click Directory, I can select either alphabetically or by department. It will list all of our staff members here, and you'll be able to find, anyone's page. So let's say I want to see what my student in Ms. Mandaro's AP CS class needs to do. I'm going to click on her name here, and then you'll see these are all of the classes that she teaches this year. I'll click on this one course, and then it brings you to this page that is all created internally. So we have an awesome CS team that thinks in a way that I never could. So they've created this awesome template that our teachers are adapting, and they'll all have updated for the first day of school. And on here, this is like your one-stop shop to get all the information you need. So up in the left-hand corner, you see this icon is Google Classroom. So if I clicked on that, it would bring me to the AP CS Google Classroom. We have links to the online textbooks right here. We have this envelope with the @ symbol will open up an email if I were to click on that. Some other programs that students would need off to the left here on the little bookshelf icon. And then right in the middle, we have some information that would be helpful to reference. So course expectations, the syllabus, and grades. If you click on the grades tab on any of the teachers' pages, this will bring you to your Plus Portals page. So you would just log in from there, and then you could check the grades in all of their classes. Office hours are also posted on this page, and any other resources that teachers feel would be helpful that pertain to their class. But again, on this individual page that all teachers will have, you'll have the link to their Google Classroom, their syllabus, their expectations, plus portals, email, and online textbooks, and also information about their office hours. So it's, again, great place to start if you're just not sure. You're trying to help your student's not really sure where they need to be either. Where this, again, is a new platform that we have, a new process, but I think it will be really helpful for everyone managing their students' expectations, especially if you have multiple students at the school too. I think this will be, again, a great way for everyone to keep track of what they need. So I'm going to stop sharing, and we have a little over 10 minutes left. I'm going to pause because I haven't read anything in the chat, so I don't know if Mike or Ellen, if there's anything you want to jump in about here.
I have been clicking away a million miles an hour there, Mike. So hopefully I've been able to keep up with the chat. Some things I've emailed back, messaged back privately, and some of it I've done for everyone. I guess I will, add a couple more thoughts, Bran, as you're kind of going through things, and Mike, I think you'd like to jump in here too. So there was a question in the chat asking about the HVAC system and what updated information we may have on that. So, we're a public school and we need to go through a process for bidding, right? A bidding process. So that has started. Director of Facilities, Eric Lane, is working on that. We have 5 companies right now who are creating bids for us. And so the expectation is that eventually one of them will be hired. We have received permission from the landlord to do a full airflow quality inspection on the 2 buildings that he still owns. For the new families, we have 3 buildings. One is 165 Forest Street. We own that building, so we can do the air quality testing on that one without an issue. The 199 and the 201 buildings, we still rent them from, lease them from our landlord. And but we have received permission from him to go ahead and do that work. He's been working all summer on the lower school building. I can tell you that. For those of you who are familiar with that building, all of the classrooms that the computer from the computer labs all the way up to the teacher's lounge, he has put individual heating and cooling units in those so that they'll actually be regulated within that room. And the computer labs have 2. So it's like when you walk into a hotel and you walk in and there's you can kind of set the regulator yourself. It's a unit like that. And I haven't seen them yet. The last time I went in, the electricity wasn't set up, but it is now. And but Eric Lane tested them and said they're very quiet. For anyone who's been in our upper school, especially on our 3rd floor, it sounds like there's a helicopter taking off in those rooms when they AC and the heat turn on. So we're very happy with that. But we still need to make sure that airflow is up to snuff and where it needs to be in order for us to be in those buildings safely. So yes, we are definitely working on that. I also just want to just throw in one other thought here. We had questions that and I understand this question is coming from, and believe me, it's in my own mind and my own heart too. It's like, well, what is this going to look like? What is a full day of remote learning going to look like for my child? Well, I think it's going to be similar to what they experienced in the spring, except much deeper and much more organized, and there'll be a lot more engagement work that they're going to experience. The teachers have been working many hours over the last 2 weeks and will continue to really help to make their lessons now on this platform, but also much more engaging. They've been using Nearpod to do that, and they've had a lot of Zoom training. We all have. But I think my message here is we're not sure, right? Because we haven't done it. We have a plan, and the plan is tight, and it feels right and it feels good to us, but we're not going to know what it really, really looks like until we've experienced it for a week or two. Now, the beautiful part about charter schools, the beautiful part about AMSA in particular, in my opinion, is that we can pivot very quickly. So you're going to get pulse question surveys that we ask you to please participate in from Mark Vital. As I mentioned earlier, Mark is our facilitator he's collecting all of our feedback, right, the feedback coordinator, through that email address, the AMSA remote learning at amsacs.org. And we're going to pull all that together, and we're going to take your feedback from the teachers, from the students, and from our parents, and find out what's working and what isn't. And what isn't working, we're going to work on until we get it to work, right? So, it's like anything else you do. You can plan and plan and plan until the cows come home, and we have. Well, the cows are coming home next week, and now we have to watch it play out. We're not going to let it go on for a long time. After a week or two, we're going to be surveying, and we're going to be making adjustments as needed. So it's good to plan. We always plan, but we always have to have backup plan B and C and D, and we have to keep pivoting and changing. So I want you to know that this is not just one plan that's coming out. It's going to be a work in progress. It has to be, because there's too much that we don't know, and there's still too many unknowns out there. So your feedback's important, because the only way we're going to know what's working and what isn't is to hear from you. So we ask you to let us know. So those are some thoughts like on the top of my mind. I'll turn the time back over to Mike. I think he's got some thoughts he wants to share with you too. But this is about community. This is about us working together with you to take care of and to teach your children in the very best and safest way that we can do that right now. And so because we're a team and because we're a community, we need to continue to work together. Our teachers working with us, working with our kids, working with you. And that's our goal for the fall. Mike?
Hey, Ellen, I actually don't really have too much to add, other than just to sort of reiterate. I think I mentioned it at the first family forum. I know I mentioned it to our staff. Flexibility is the name of the game this year, well, at least during this remote phase. Every document that we send out, every policy that we're creating or procedure we're creating because of these times that we're in, they're all living and breathing documents that can be adjusted, like you said, Ellen, on the fly. That's why we are entering into this year with what I believe is a very strong plan. I think for the most part, it will be very, very successful, and we won't need to make too many revisions, but we will need to make revisions. We will need to adjust. We ask, everyone, all the parents, students, staff, everyone was so supportive and understanding and patient during the spring. We're coming into this year with a much more structured plan, but nothing's perfect. We're going into a school year. Everything's brand new to everyone. We've created a new school in the last, I'd say the last 2 months especially. Like, we've created an online school, and it's up to all of you as parents and the students, our number one and most valued customers, to give us the feedback, and we as a staff and the teachers will have to review it and see what we can do. So I guess the message is just we need to continue to keep open lines of communication, and adjust as necessary. But honestly, I would not want to be anywhere else right now. AMSA, as I said at another meeting, we are a strong community full of very, very intelligent people. You've seen some of the great things we've already done with creating those one-stop shop classroom pages on our website. Those will be under each teacher's directory name that you can click on. We're doing all that we can, but maybe we haven't thought of some things that we may not have thought of something yet. We may not have been hit with a problem yet that, we don't even know that there's one out there to solve right now. We don't know. So just keep communicating with us. We will adjust. I'm confident in our community. We're very strong and tight knit. So I'm going into this year with a pretty high level of confidence given the circumstances. So I'm ready to go. I hope you all are ready to go. Let's just work together and, we'll power through. We'll get through it. I'm very sure of that.
Brianna, anything else you want to add?
No, I think you guys got all of the questions that were in the side. I was just scrolling through one more time.
There's a
Yeah,
few I answered privately too.
Oh, okay.
I would say, keep the questions coming. Please go onto the website. They've done a fantastic job posting information there. It should be your go-to place with any questions that you have, and then obviously to reach out to us and to the deans. They've had to put a whole new discipline system in place, honestly. So, keep communicating. So thank you all very much and have a great night.